Hi there, thanks for joining us. My name is Stacy Hicks. I'm a National Board Certified Teacher and I'm on staff at the National Board. We're going to talk a little bit about the guidance on portfolio submissions for certification, and I'm here along with my colleague Lisa Clark.
Hi everybody, I'm Lisa. I'm also a board certified teacher working at the National Board. I'll turn it back to you, Stacy.
Thanks, Lisa. So the National Board is committed to ensuring you have flexibility for successful completion and submission of your portfolio components during COVID, and we know that there's far-reaching impacts both professionally and personally. So we wanted to make sure that we were thoughtful, and we want you to be rest assured that we're committed to upholding the integrity of the National Board certification, at the same time being committed to maximizing your opportunities for success. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about today is reviewing the approved extensions, exceptions that are specific to COVID-19 and the allowances that we'll make to all candidates going forward. We also encourage you to read the guides on our website. You can find that on our COVID-19 site off of our main page, the nbpts.org. Read those carefully, as there are details in there that we won't be able to cover in the video today, but we'll kind of go over all of the highlights. So let's just jump right in. The first thing that we're going to talk about is that the guidance form. So you have on our website, you can see the web browser below. Go to our website and you can download these as a PDF and have that material there for you as you're thinking about submitting your components and taking into consideration the new guidance because of the pandemic. So the first extension that you may see is World Languages ACTFL rating. So if you purchased a component to complete your initial attempt on all 4 components in the 1920 year, and you deferred to complete that component in the next cycle, so 2021, then that means you may be eligible for an extension on the date for which you would need to have your required ACTFL rating to be obtained. So that's good news. One thing to note, however, if World Languages candidates completely withdraw from all components purchased during this year, the 1920 year, then they would not be eligible for the extension by the date of the required ACTFL ratings that you must obtain. So the top line there is you may have an extension for your ACTFL requirements. If you are deferring, that requirement would defer 1 additional year. And again, this extension is a one-time exception due to the pandemic, and just us understanding that some folks may need some more time to get that World Language ACTFL rating obtained. The next piece that we're going to cover is the extensions for certification eligibility for initial and retake candidates. So if you purchase components in the 1920 year and you defer 1 or more components to the next cycle, which is the 2021 year, then the time period to attempt each of those 4 certification components and or the time to achieve certification would be extended by a year. So what does that mean? Let's break that down. Basically, 2019 and 20 school year will not count against you in the following ways. It won't count against you towards the requirement to attempt all components for your first time within that first 3 years of your eligibility for your initial certification. And the year won't count against you towards the 5-year window to achieve your certification if you were working on some retakes. So again, this is great news. If you decided to defer 1 additional to the next cycle, 1 additional year, this year would not count against you in your time frame for your eligibility requirements. So again, extension is a one-time exception due to the pandemic, but that's a really important piece to highlight. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa to talk us through the next slide.
Thanks, Stacy. So we've heard from some candidates that you have some questions around class composition, and we can imagine this is especially present given that your classes look different than they did a month or so ago. So we wanted to clarify some things and then share an exception. So there are no changes to the age requirements of the students for your portfolio entries. So no changes to the ages. The age expectations are still the ones identified by your certificate area. And also no changes to the number of students. For this, we encourage you to consult your portfolio instructions because those documents have some guidance on the number of students required for small group, for whole group, and so encourage you to check that out. Where there is an exception, and a one-time exception for responses to COVID is in the rostered class. So this exception is for initial, retake, and renewal candidates. The definition of rostered class is being adjusted. So your class can be more than one of yours or another teacher's rostered classes. So you may have students who are joining from a Zoom meeting from your first period, your third period, and your fourth period class, for example. As long as they are on one of your rosters or a roster of a colleague, that is an acceptable definition for rostered class. Your class cannot be a tutoring group or an after-school program or club. It must be a combination of rostered classes. The instructions for some certificate areas, such as music and school counseling, may state some exceptions. So continue to follow your certificate area instructions, except rostered class now means you can also draw from multiple rostered classes to form one class or group. So that's the update on class composition. The next update we have for you is around the time period for evidence. This information that I'm sharing with you is for initial and retake candidates as it applies to components 2 and components 3. So if you purchased your components in 2019 and 2020 and submit in June, October of 2020, or in the spring of 2021, then your evidence can have begun as early as April 1st, 2019. So let's break this down. If you already have evidence from April 1st, 2019 on, then you can submit that. You can submit that in June, you can submit that in October, or you can submit that next spring. And again, this is a one-time exception due to the pandemic. Stacey, I'll turn it over to you for the component 4 information.
Great, thanks. So again, looking at this initial and retake candidate facing evidence. So we're going to talk about component 4. So if you purchase components in 2019 and through 2020, and you submit in June 2020, or you submit in October 2020, or in the spring of 2021. So if you purchase those components and you choose to submit component 4 in any of those timeframes, then the identification of your professional learning need and student need could have actually begun as early as April 1st, 2018. If you're looking at your class group and the assessment, that could have begun as early as April 1st, 2019. And the evidence on impact of student learning could have begun as early as April 1st, 2019. So if you're submitting your component 4 in either June 2020, October 2020, or spring 2021, then pay attention to the different timeframes of which you could draw that professional learning need and student need, when you can use the class group and assessment, and the evidence of impact. So those dates may vary, but you see that on the screen, you're generally looking at April 1st, but depending on the need or the evidence, that could be either falling into 2018 or as early as 2019. So pay close attention to your component for the evidence for those for that component. So the next piece that we wanted to talk through was different allowances. So for the majority of folks, we know that we are teaching virtually just because of the COVID-19. Many states have went to stay-at-home orders, so that's left teachers leaving the classroom and setting up virtual classrooms and virtual spaces for learning. So we needed to make an allowance for that. So for your videos of virtual classrooms no longer have to be split screen. So that's a change in the general rules that we've had. But so now moving forward, at this point for your COVID-19 allowance, you do not have to have a split screen. So videos of virtual classrooms can now be split screen recordings or videoed with a camera that captures the teacher at the computer with the students on the screen. So for example, if I was sitting and I was teaching, I would be facing the screen. I'd be able to capture that if I was using my cell phone or some other recording device to capture me interacting with my students. So that is allowable and permissible. For music, for component 2, the instructions do not require you to be visible in the video segments. So that is music certificate specific. So music candidates should though still follow instructions in recording your video segment. So it's just a zoom into a specific certification allowance there with our music. So Lisa, I'll turn it over to talk through the different school years.
Thanks, Stacy. So this applies for component 3. So if you're a candidate working on component 3 and you plan to submit in October of 2020 or in spring of 2021, you may use videos from one school year, or you may submit one video from the 2019-2020 school year and a second video from the 2020-2021 school year. So even if you choose to submit in October, you can still use videos from this school year, or you could use one from this school year and from next school year. And the same applies if you are submitting in spring of 2021. And we encourage you to check out the component 3 instructions for more information about selecting the classes to feature. And please note that this exception will not continue after the pandemic. This is an exception that we're making given the times that we're in. So Stacy and I thought that it might be helpful to share an important note for you to consider specifically around component 3 and component 2 for those of you that might be doing some taping for component 2 based on your certificate area. So regardless of the way that you choose to film a virtual classroom, it is still really important to show the interaction between you, the teacher, and your students, as well as among the students. And if you've been spending time with your component 3 instructions, that's probably something that you've seen a couple of times. You know, the importance of interaction between teacher and students, as well as among students. If this interaction is not clearly seen in the video, the result will be limited evidence for the assessors to score. And again, encourage you to check out the general portfolio instructions and the component 3 instructions for tips on recording video entries.
Okay, I'm going to talk through some of the allowances for forms. So again, given the fact that many of us are now in stay-at-home orders, we're staying home to make sure that we're protected, that our families are protected, that we're doing our part to protect our community. That leaves us not in the same spaces to collect physical items. And so if you're in that, if you find yourself in that scenario, it's important to note that release forms are still required. So when you have your portfolio components, you're required to seek and receive permission to use images and some of the materials that you include in your portfolio. So that has not changed. What has changed is that candidates may accept adult and student release forms via email or with an electronic signature. So if you can't collect the physical hard copy hand-signed forms, this is an allowance for COVID-19. We are allowing that you can accept that through virtual spaces. So the other really great thing is that if you wanted to, you could create your own form, but they must use the same language used on our national board release form. So you can find that online. You can copy, you can use that right into whatever digital platform that you may collect potentially student work samples, or if you have, I'll give you one example, if you're using like maybe a Google survey or form, you could put that same language within there and collect those signatures virtually. So we just wanted to highlight that you still do need to complete those and have your families and students complete those, but the way that you accept them at this time during the COVID-19 pandemic is different. So we wanted to highlight that and let you know that there's some flexibility there. Just pay close attention to the language that you're using to make sure that it's the same as what we would use on our national board release form. So I'm going to turn it over. Oh, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
No worries, Stacy. Sorry about that. We're just going to close out this video today with a couple of resources that you've probably heard us talk about before and have received information, but we wanted to make sure that they were on your radar. The first is Atlas for Candidates. This is the first year that we are making Atlas available for candidates. So just wanted to share at a super high level an overview of this resource. Atlas is a video case library of previous submissions from National Board certified teachers of their video and their instructional materials and their written commentary that they submitted as part of their board certification journey. An important thing to note, however, is that the video cases and the written commentary in the Atlas for Candidates feature are from a previous submission. The questions that candidates had to answer was different. The expectations on videos were different. But we wanted you to have an example of the videos, the types of videos that teachers submit, and also an opportunity to spend some time taking a look at their written commentary. We know that for candidates, there's a lot of interest in learning more about the difference between descriptive and analytical and reflective writing in terms of practice. So you'll see that when you open Atlas for Candidates, you'll see the video, the written commentary, information about board certification, the instructional materials, some notes, and the resource section there has some guiding questions for you to think about as you take a look at the both the video and the written commentary. So if you do not have access to Atlas right now, you can go to our Atlas page on our website and click the candidate button here. And it will take you to a super quick survey. Take that, and within a couple of days, you will be added to Atlas for Candidates and have your own access. We encourage you to choose the candidate button, not the 30-day free trial, because the candidate button means that you'll have access to Atlas for the life of your candidacy and not just for 30 days. And then the other resource we wanted to let you know about is that we have a virtual course not designed by National Board, but one that we wanted to share with you. It is free. All you need to do is to fill out this survey on top, and we will add you to the course. And usually we do that every 24 hours. So you should, as soon as you sign up within the next day or so, you'll be added to the course. You'll receive an email from Canvas, and it is a self-guided course to support you in your candidate journey.
Lisa, those are really awesome resources, and we want you to know that those resources are free. So free to candidates. Please go on, um, explore the spaces, and you know, Atlas really helps to demystify the process. So if nothing else, it gives you a great example of exemplary teaching, of exemplary submitted materials that you can kind of dive into and learn as you go. So if you have questions, that's a really great resource. The other place that we want, the other resource that we want to point you towards is our COVID-19 webpage. So we mentioned this at the top of the video. All of the resources that we've talked through today, whether it was the forms, for the guidance for your initial or retake candidates, you can find those located on our nvpts.org/COVID-19 page. This page is dedicated to all of the new updates and resources that we have available to help you understand your candidate journey now in this time of pandemic. There are also some other really great resources on our website that we've been working on since the stay-at-home orders started right in mid-March. And those come in the form of webinars. So we've had a really great Core Connections webinar series. If you're logging in today, there are upcoming webinars. There are also webinars that have happened in the past, but you haven't missed them. They're still there, cataloged for you. All of the resources and replays are available. So if you have questions on specific content, you may find some really great resources there that you can click and explore on your own time. If you need some help, whether it's content or just adapting to virtual teaching and living in this new time of COVID-19. So there's some really great resources. The other thing that we want you to recognize is that we have a dedicated 1-800-22-TEACH number. That is our open and available line for our customer service team. If you have questions that you're sitting with, even after we've walked through some of these forms, some of these exceptions, some of these allowances, you may still not have all the answers that you need for your specific inquiries. We encourage you to get those answers. Please reach out to our 1-800-22-TEACH number. You can also reach out via web form, which is helpful if you have a question that happens at 2 a.m. when the customer care team is not available. Or if you're just realizing that maybe the call center could be particularly inundated at certain times. That's always available and available to you. So that form is live and you have 24-hour access to that web form. So we encourage you to reach out if you have questions, but we just wanted to thank you for joining us. We encourage you to go to that COVID-19 webpage, pull down the resources that you may need to get your questions answered. But we hope that we were able to help and that you're all staying safe. Thanks so much.